I'd like to share with you from this gem of a book called Enough by Helen Roseveare, as I believe that what she has to say is vital for us to grasp. So she next talks about her deepest longing to know Christ and to be more like him, and then goes into some of the respectable sins in her life which prevent her from this, like impatience, anxiety, irritability, and other things. And she shows how the Holy Spirit has both the power to change us as well as give us the humility and grace to allow him to. And she recounts a period of discontentment due to loneliness and feeling overwhelmed in the work. She would say to God in her frustration, "Why don't you send someone to help me?" When she came back to the UK on her first furlough, she ended up in hospital and it seemed she was dying. But the Lord spoke clearly to her from Hosea 2, verse 16. "In that day, declares the Lord, you will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master." And she writes, "Even in my lethargy, I remembered the verse, and even before the nurse read it to me, the word from God was working in my heart. God had spoken to me. Can you not trust me to be the companion you so long for? Am I not sufficient to supply your need as your constant helper?" She went on to say, yes, God was sufficient. I did not need anyone else. And from that moment, she began to get better, to the amazement of the doctors. Then the civil war broke out in the Congo and she was captured by the rebel soldiers. And she had to prove that God was enough for all that she needed in the midst of such atrocities. When it came to her turn to suffer at their hands, she cried out to God, and she said she almost felt his loving arms around her. And she says that he said to her, "Can you thank me for trusting you with this, even if I never tell you why?" And she writes, "I was overwhelmed at the privilege of being trusted by him to go through whatever was coming next, because it was all part of his perfect plan. He didn't have to explain to me the why and the wherefore of his plan." But she also shares about how God tested her trust in his sufficiency alone. After she'd been in the Congo for 20 years, there was an uprising among some of the medical students, and they accused her and others of embezzling funds, which wasn't true. And so she found this time really painful after all that she'd poured into the work. And she cried out to the Lord, and she said, "God seemed to ask me a question. When you were home after the rebellion, you told everyone that I, God, was sufficient for all your needs. Is that not still true?" And she replies, "Yes, God, of course you are sufficient for all my needs." "No," God seemed to reply, "you want Jesus plus a sense of success, going home with photographs of your students and the football team you had coached, with tape recordings of the choir you had trained, singing parts of Handel's Messiah. You wanted the leadership to write to urge you to return again because they can't really cope with the college without you." My heart ached. A battle was raging inside me. Yes, I did want to be missed. Yes, I did need others to think of me as a success. Yes, yet at the same time, my heart knew that Jesus was all I actually wanted or needed. At last, heartbroken, I confessed to God my pride and told him, "Yes, I only want Jesus, not Jesus plus." The dear Lord restored peace to my heart as once again he made so clear to me that Jesus is enough for every situation. His grace is sufficient to meet every need. So on that note, I just want to end and encourage each one of us to trust and be thankful that Jesus is more than enough for us, for whatever each day may bring, and for eternity.